Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. We had 4 games: Nets, Celtics, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Jazz, Mavs, and Sixers, Raptors to go through today, so I won't spend too long in this intro. But before I get into it, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and or if you are new here. I'm trying to hit 10k subs before the end of the playoffs, and the way that y'all have been giving the support, we can totally do that. So please help out, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as well as drop your takeaways from today's games. I'm really curious because I think there's a lot to take away from today's games. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off with the Celtics versus the Nets. This is a series that before the NBA playoffs, I made a video talking about why I think this is kind of anyone's series. I did pick the Celtics to win. There's star power on both sides, of course, with Tatum and Brown and then Kyrie and Kevin Durant. But to me, the Celtics were just the more complete team, a deeper team. Ime Udoka has been great as a head coach, lockdown defense, and they've been the hottest team in the league in the second half of the season. So I did pick the Celtics, but this is one that I thought was going to be like a 2-2 series going back to Boston or something like that. It has not been that. The Celtics have dominated in this series, and they've done so both offensively and defensively, but in specific defensively, the way they've been winning games this whole season, they are locking the Nets down. And in particular, Kevin Durant has been just bad in this series. Not even like by his standards, which yes, he's been very bad by his standards, but overall, he's just having a bad playoff series. There aren't many times I can remember seeing Kevin Durant struggle like this. The last time was like the last few games of the 2016 Western Conference Finals, which I hate to bring up as a Thunder fan, but even in that series, like through the first few games, he was playing pretty well. This series, he has yet to put together a really solid performance. Tonight, he only had 16 points and 6 turnovers. And the reason he only had 16 points, it's not because he necessarily shot bad, but the Celtics weren't even really letting him get the ball or get shots up. They have played such ridiculously good defense on Kevin Durant. It's really hard to put into words what they're doing to KD. He's uncomfortable, and for a guy that's considered one of the greatest scorers of all time, the way that they're slowing him down, making him rethink every decision. He made so many bad turnovers today because the Celtics were just jumping the passing lanes. It was incredible what they're doing, poking the ball away. Tatum has blocked like a ton of his shots, which is incredible to see. And really, I think Jason Tatum has been the key to this thing. Everyone knows how great he is offensively, but sneakily this season, which I don't feel like many people have realized, Tatum has turned into one of the best two-way players in the league, and he's finally establishing it on like this big national stage in front of everyone. Tatum is one of the best two-way guys in the league, period. Offensively, he can give you 30 a night. Defensively, he can lock up one of the greatest scorers of all time. It's incredible what he is doing for this Celtics team, taking the leap into superstardom. It's so fun to watch. And not just him, but really this whole Celtics defense. Al Horford, Marcus Smart, the now defensive player of the year, Jaylen Brown, Rob Williams is back. He was playing really solid. Daniel Tice, Grant Williams, like everyone on this team is so bought in. But Tatum's individual defense on Kevin Durant has been ridiculous. And even just Durant's, even when Durant gets good looks, he's not knocking them down. He has to work so hard. He looks exhausted out there because the Celtics are just beating him up. They're being physical. They're forcing him to take these super contested looks every time he shoots the ball, so that the point when he gets like one decent look that's uncontested, he's just exhausted. And him and Kyrie have had to play such heavy minutes down the stretch because this isn't a deep roster, and so I think it's finally just catching up with them. This Nets team isn't that deep. They're really star reliant, and so when their stars aren't playing well, like Kyrie and Kevin Durant haven't been for the last couple games, they can't win. It's just not going to happen. When you have a team that's as good as the Celtics, you're not going to beat them like that. You just can't. And so Kevin Durant absolutely has to be better, but at this point, the series is kind of over. They're not going to come back from a 3-0 deficit. It's just not going to happen, especially against a Celtics team that is so elite on both sides of the ball. In my opinion, I think this one's over. Maybe the Nets take one game, but to me, it's over in either 4 or 5. I think it could very well be a sweep. You've got Ben Simmons coming back for next game, but I don't think that's going to really affect much. He's not going to fix the offensive woes of KD. It's just not going to happen. KD's going to have to fix himself, and I can already tell you, the Twitter slander, if the Nets get swept, is going to be crazy. It's already happening, and they're only down 3-0 at this point. Of course, that pretty much is a death sentence in the NBA, but it's been shocking. And this is coming from someone who believes in the Celtics a lot. I've said a lot recently that they're contenders heading into the playoffs, that they could win the East, win the finals, because this isn't the Celtics team of the past few years, or I feel like people just haven't taken this Celtics team seriously leading into the playoffs, and now I think they finally are. I think people are finally realizing how good they are, and they've just dismantled the Nets completely. It's been ridiculous to watch, and like I said, I thought it was going to go 7, maybe 6 with the Celtics win, but for it to possibly be a sweep is not something I saw coming. So shout out to the Celtics. We'll see if KD bounces back. I really didn't think he was going to have another poor game, but he did. He just kept turning the ball over, was making the wrong reads, wasn't shooting, wasn't being aggressive. It was a really bad look from a guy who for so long has been so dominant. It's not been a good series for him. So the Celtics being able to shut him down, I think, is pretty good for them going forward, where they're going to have to go up against a lot of elite offensive talent if they want to make a finals run, and they're showing that their defense is able to lock up some of the best scores we've ever seen. It's a pretty good sign for the Celtics. This Celtics team is more than capable of making a finals run. As for the Nets, if this series ends the way I think it's going to in 4 or 5, I think we're going to see some pretty big shifts, and it's a bad look for the Nets because they're kind of locked into what they have. Of course, Ben Simmons will be back next season. He can play and he can get healthy, but even so, like, it still doesn't feel like this thing's going to fix itself overnight. I don't know if Steve Nash comes back. He's done a pretty poor job in this series. I haven't liked a lot of his coaching decisions. I will give him credit. He brought Blake Griffin off of the bench today, and he played decently in the minutes he was in. But overall, I just don't think he's done a great job. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting axed after this series, but I guess we'll see. It's really weird to see Kevin Durant struggle so much. We'll see if he can bounce back, but with the way the Celtics have defended him, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. Moving on from that game, we had Grizzlies Timberwolves. This series has been crazy from a neutral fan perspective. I can't imagine how stressful it's been for the fans of these two franchises that the Timberwolves haven't been to the playoffs in a meaningful way in a really long time, and the Grizzlies are trying to capitalize on being a 2-seed, championship aspirations. The series is now 2-2, with the Timberwolves coming out on top 119 to 118. This one went right down to the wire. Karl-Anthony Towns, after having a really weird game last game where he only shot 4 times, came out tonight and dropped 33, 14, and 3. He was absolutely incredible offensively. He made a couple questionable decisions here and there, but overall, it was plenty to get the job done. He had a great game. Patrick Beverley had 17 with really solid defense on John Morant. You had 24 from Anthony Edwards, who continues to showcase how great he can be. 16 from Jordan McLaughlin, who was incredible off the bench today. He played only 14 minutes, put up 16 points, and got a standing ovation when he left. He was just that good, knocking down threes and really giving them the minutes that they needed. On the Grizzlies side of the ball, John Morant was really bad in this game. I think he was 4 for 13 or something along those lines, which is crazy to see from a guy who's just been so good all year. He did have 15 dimes, but they need him to score. If he's not putting up points, they're not going to win games, and they can't go as far in the playoffs as they want to. Hell, if John Morant doesn't play a little bit better, they could lose this series. This Timberwolves team is a really, really solid basketball team. They're not going to make this thing easy. And my initial pick was Grizzlies in 6, so that is still possible. But right now, to me, it kind of feels like this thing might go 7. Momentum keeps shifting back and forth. The Timberwolves, after guaranteeing themselves a game 6 in Minnesota, this one kind of just feels destined to me to go to 7 games. And as a neutral fan who's been super stressed watching this series, I can't imagine the stress for Timberwolves and Grizzlies fans if this thing goes 7. But it's been really fun to watch. A lot of highlights, a lot of great play on both sides, fast break offense, a lot of really fun big moments in this one. It went right down to the wire, like I said. John Morant and Karl-Anthony Towns' dads sitting on the sideline. That was pretty fun to watch with them, like literally next to each other, kind of talking trash back and forth. That was a fun one. Another protester ran onto the court in this one. So the Timberwolves are now 3-0 when protesters go on the court. So if you're a Timberwolves fan, maybe you just got to go protest on the court for the next 2 games, and you'll be moving on to the second round. But overall, this is just a really impressive comeback from the Timberwolves. Last game was probably pretty demoralizing. So for Cat and the guys to come and bounce back the way that they did is really impressive for a young squad. So shout out to them. Shout out to Coach Chris Finch for getting the job done. And we'll see what happens in Game 5. That, of course, Game 5 is always the really big one in these series because it's hard to win 2 games, especially when you have 2 teams that are really fighting with each other like this. I'm really curious to see how it goes. Going to be back in Memphis. Excited for that one. Moving on from that, We had Jazz Mavericks. Luka Doncic made his return today. And I said last video, I said it kind of felt like to me the Jazz were done. If Luka came back, I thought it would be over in 5. And instead, the Jazz won 100-99. Jalen Brunson at 23, Luka had 30, 10, and 4 in his comeback, including a 3 that I personally thought was kind of a dagger. But no, the Jazz were able to pull it off, winning off of course, a Donovan Mitchell to Rudy Gobert lob when there's been all that conversation about, oh, like Donovan Mitchell doesn't pass to Rudy Gobert and things like that. So for it to end on a lob was pretty poetic. Mitchell really struggled to score like efficiently in this one, but he did put up 23, 6, and 7. Gobert was getting hacked all game. He shot a million free throws. It just kind of felt like a Rudy Gobert free throw compilation at some times. He put up 17 and 15 with the eventual game winner. 25 from Jordan Clarkson, and the Jazz get it done. I was really impressed with how they were able to come back. I'm sure they were demoralized after last game. But overall, to just come back, stay poised, and come and win in your home court to make sure that you will be back for a Game 6 on your home turf is huge for this team. Maybe this is a momentum shifter and they end up making it out of the round, but we'll see. I still think this is the Mavericks series to lose just from what I've seen. Overall, it was really just good to see Luka back. I was really impressed by how the Jazz were kind of able to stifle a little bit better on the perimeter. They did have a 12-point lead heading into halftime and then blew it straight in the third quarter. So part of me was kind of like, oh, this is another Jazz collapse. But they stuck it out and ended up outscoring the Mavs by 4 in the fourth. Just a combination of plays from different guys really making it difficult for the Mavs to get offense going. Maybe this was a little bit of rust, adjusting back to having Luka. We'll see. But overall, pretty good win from the Jazz to keep not just this series alive, but maybe the future of this team alive. And finally, we had Sixers Raptors, with the Raptors winning 110-102, extending the series, moving on to a Game 5 now, avoiding the sweep. Joel Embiid struggled in this one. He had 21 points, but he just really didn't look like the Embiid we've seen. He's dealing with that thumb injury that hopefully won't be too detrimental to him over the course of this playoff run. He said he's going to play through it, so I'm assuming it's okay. James Harden had 22, but he couldn't really get it done efficiently. Tyrese Maxey only 11 points. Tobias Harris continues to play pretty solid with 15 and 11 and just pretty solid defense. But really, this was just Pascal Siakam's show. He had 34 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 24 from Gary Trent Jr. Fred VanVleet only had 5 in this one before leaving with injury. Hopefully he's good. I haven't seen any news on that injury. Thaddeus Young had 13 and dropped Joel Embiid, which is really weird to see. This was just a big win for the Toronto Raptors. Of course, they needed this to keep their season alive, and it really just kind of is a pretty nice morale win to have not gotten swept. I still think the Sixers are going to close this one out pretty soon, but overall, the Raptors do keep this series alive, keep the dream going forward. Siakam continues to show why he deserves to be on an All-NBA team, in my opinion. Not that the playoffs matter, of course, but to me, this is kind of the way he's been playing all season, and so I hope Siakam does get that All-NBA love. He's having a great year, and this was just a huge showcase for him. Without Fred VanVleet, the other All-Star caliber player on the team, in the lineup, Pascal was able to get it done really just in that fourth quarter. He was dominating, being aggressive, attacking every time he had the ball. He knew that they couldn't really stop him, and so he just kept going. Big win for the Toronto Raptors. The Sixers, I think they're going to be fine and bounce back, but Embiid's thumb is definitely something to keep an eye on. It was clearly bothering him in this game. It would have been huge if the Sixers could have gotten out of this one, gotten the sweep, and secured at least a week's rest before facing probably the Miami Heat, unless the Atlanta Hawks make another amazing run like they did last year. But overall, just they couldn't get it done, so they really need to try and get this one out in 5 to give Embiid that time to rest and maybe try and get back to, if not 100% health, just get him a little bit healthier. Those are my thoughts on the games and my biggest takeaways. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comment section below. Once again, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all watching, and I will see you all later. Real One, say it back.